This guy is Gamba Ruji, the so-called Immortal Ruji, leader of a 10,000-man biker gang called Dark Eternal Heat. A man so ridiculously tough that people say he's unbeatable in fights and in running away. Basically the final boss of every delinquent in the city, a walking red flag with a motorcycle and zero fear of consequences. But the universe absolutely did not respect his reputation. While riding his bike like the unstoppable street king he is, a random cat suddenly jumps into his path. Ruji swerves to avoid it, and just like that, boom, the legendary biker boss gets speedrun deleted in 3 panels. Not by an enemy, but by a stray kitten. Before this unbelievably stupid death, we see the rare wholesome side of this violent maniac. Despite leading thousands of criminals, Ryuji actually reads storybooks with his little sister Saki like a surprisingly decent older brother. The book is your standard trashy romance. You know the drill: a generic villainess tries to marry the prince, gets in the way of the heroine, probably gets exiled or executed. Saki eats the stuff up talking about happy endings. But Ryuji isn't buying it. His delinquent brain only knows one solution to romantic drama: violence. He's sitting there thinking, why don't they just beat up? Honestly, based. Why use diplomacy when you have fists? Suddenly, reality glitches out. Ryuji wakes up, but he's not in the hospital, and he's definitely not on his bike. He's standing in the middle of a bougie ballroom, looking like he's about to drop a diss track on the aristocracy. Everyone is staring at him like he just grew a second head. He looks out over the massive hall, completely lost. He grabs a drink to check his reflection and realizes the horrifying truth. He's the girl from the book. But instead of panicking, this narcissist goes, damn, I'm fucking cute, prioritizing the drip over the existential crisis. Respect. But then, the intrusive thoughts win. He does the one check every guy would do. He lifts the dress, checks the equipment, and error 404, sausage not found. Congratulations. You have respawned inside the storybook you mocked earlier as the villainous princess herself. Yes, the exact character who gets wrecked by the plot later. But he decides to roll with it for now and tries to get a handle on the situation. A man at the front of the party gets everyone's attention, revealing a spy from a rival kingdom is in the room. He points directly at the visiting royal Princess Maria and charges her with espionage. Our boy, or our babe, now puts it together. The peace engagement was just a cover for her to spy on them. He finds the whole situation amusing, but can't shake the feeling he's heard this story before. The prince asks Maria if the rumors are true, but she denies everything. Our boy just watches from the back, enjoying the show. Maria is totally flustered. The announcer cuts her off, claiming he already has all the proof he needs. And he points right at our MC, revealing that he got the evidence from Eliza, the daughter of the Chark House. The announcer leans in and tells her to bring out the forged evidence. He's promising her the crown if she plays along. Ryuji finally gets it. The announcer and whoever this body belongs to are trying to frame the princess. And just like that, he remembers. This whole scene is straight out of the picture book his sister Saki was reading. It all clicks into place. He's become the evil villainess from the story. But our boy isn't about to play along with some stupid plot, yelling that it's all a load of crap. He throws a haymaker that sends the announcer flying. The entire room is stunned, wondering what's gotten into Eliza. She just screams back that she can't stand liars. The announcer, still on the floor, tries to apologize for his underling. Ryuji just glares down at him, about to set things straight. He then turns his attention to the royals. He tells the princess to stand up for herself if she's innocent, and calls out the prince for not even trusting her. He finishes his lecture by telling them all to use their heads. The entire party is left speechless after getting chewed out by the supposed villainess. The prince puts it together, accusing her of conspiring with the announcer. She just denies it, saying she's not involved in their drama. She tells him to do whatever he wants, because she's already hit her limit. Looking down at the guy on the floor, she warns him not to mess with her. The announcer is furious that all his careful planning is being ruined by what he calls a little girl's whims. He roars that he won't let it happen as a magic circle materializes behind him. He unleashes a massive fire spell, laughing that they should all burn for getting in his way. The announcer thinks it's just a trick, but a voice from inside the blaze mocks his attack, saying it's only warm. Eliza emerges from the flames unharmed, now with a demonic look. She scoffs that her senior spirit was way hotter than his attack. The announcer panics, unable to understand how she could have defended against his magic. Realizing his magic failed, the announcer smashes through a window to escape. Princess Maria tries to explain that Eliza defended her, but the prince is just confused by the whole situation. The royals immediately put the pieces together. That magic circle belongs to an enemy kingdom, meaning the announcer was a spy, and Eliza's family might be in on it. The announcer makes a break for it, storming a stable and telling an old man he's commandeering a horse. He kicks the stable hand aside, threatening him before riding off into the distance. The old man can only cry out for help. But Eliza's right on his tail, promising to catch him as she prepares to borrow a horse of her own. She figures it can't be that different from riding a bike. The stable hand warns her that she picked a demon horse, a wild beast that nobody can ride. Our girl just grins, pointing at the demonic beast and declaring that bad-looking dudes are already friends. The announcer panics as he flees, his entire plan ruined. Suddenly, a voice from behind him laughs that he can run pretty fast. The announcer turns back in disbelief to see Eliza hot on his tail. She grins, telling him she's not about to lose a race. He panics, calling her a monster as he summons several magic circles. He screams that he'll burn her to coals, but Eliza just scoffs at his magic tricks. With a shout, she effortlessly bats his fireballs away with a shovel. As the announcer screams, Eliza boasts that she's got plenty of experience from her biker days. She calls him out for his cheap tactics and then hurls the shovel right at him. The announcer can only scream at the hypocrisy. The shovel misses, embedding itself in a tree. The announcer immediately starts gloating that she's out of options. But his victory is short-lived, as the entire tree begins to crack and fall apart from the sheer force of her throw. The announcer can only scream. He gets launched by the falling tree. After crashing to the ground, he looks up to see Eliza standing over him. He tries to bargain, desperately offering a reward from the king. But she just stands there silently, channeling magic into her fist. She unleashes a barrage of punches right into his face. The final punch sends him flying. Suddenly, a headache hits Eliza and a strange memory surfaces of the noble girl being exposed and executed. The memory continues, showing the original story where the noble girl died. But then it rewrites itself, showing a new outcome where the princess was saved. She puts it together, realizing her memories of the book are literally changing. She looks over at the announcer's body and questions if beating him up just altered the entire plot. Even with him down, Eliza knows she's still not free from her bad end. The announcer keeps running his mouth, threatening that the king will never forgive her for this. He boasts that the king's own swords will hunt her to the ends of the earth. She just smirks at the idea, thinking it'll be all the better that way. It'll finally be a real challenge. A memory of his sister Saki surfaces, always alone in her hospital bed, but this only strengthens his resolve to conquer this new world, defiantly challenging fate itself. With all that, Eliza stands ready for what comes next. If it's a brawl they want, she tells them to bring it on. The guards report that after taking a horse, Eliza's location is now unknown. Just as the prince wonders what she's really up to, the princess spots her in the distance. And just like that, Eliza makes her grand entrance, dragging the announcer behind her horse. She smirks, telling the old man she's back to return his ride just like she promised. The guards list off her charges, from leaking spy information to attempting a government overthrow. One of them remarks that if it's true, it's a serious crime. But as they're talking, Eliza just lets out a huge yawn, completely bored as they inform her the prince hasn't decided her fate yet. The guards inform her that she's being officially detained here. For now, all she can do is wait. Turns out she's been thrown into Bastille Prison, the most infamous lockup in the entire country. Her arrival hasn't gone unnoticed either, as the other inmates are already whispering. Inside, the other inmates are already sizing her up. Eliza takes in the scene, comparing this new prison to her old juvenile school. She figures there's nothing too special about this place, and waits for someone to make the first move. Just as expected, a couple of inmates approach her, looking for the new girl. The woman smirks, saying a noble daughter needs to be taught a lesson, and her partner agrees they're here to teach her the rules. But Eliza just flashes them a grin that sends a chill down their spines. The two prisoners immediately freeze up in terror. She throws her arms around them, cheerfully accepting their offer to teach her the ropes. The inmates can only wonder what kind of monster they just tried to mess with. Eliza puts her arms around her new friends, asking them to tell her more about the prison. When they hesitate, she cheerfully tells them to hurry up. One of the inmates explains that this isn't just any prison. It's where the country of Showa sends all its most notorious criminals, from thieves to political prisoners. As one of her guides starts to add another detail, Eliza just laughs hysterically. She glances over at the men's section, where a group of inmates are beating up some poor guy. One of the women explains that they have male prisoners too. Eliza just deadpans that bullying the weak is a horrible sight to see. One of the women explains that the guards won't step in to stop the violence in the men's section. They're all scared of the beasts on the other side of the fence. A big dude starts pressing the kid, accusing him of acting high and mighty just because he's getting out soon. The boy just winks back, telling him they are not the same. Turns out, the kid only got locked up for stealing from a noble who ripped him off. He says he needed the cash for his sister's medicine, while Eliza's crew watches from their side. He's dead set on getting back to his sister, so he refuses to start anything that'll add more time to his sentence. He shouts at the bully to just hit him if it will make him feel better, because he won't be fighting back. From the sidelines, Eliza seems intrigued by his strategy. The big guy just grins, sarcastically impressed by the kid's resolve. He tells the kid he won't be walking anywhere, let alone to his sister's, after he's done breaking his legs. The bully raises his foot to stomp the boy, who can only scream for him to stop. Just as his foot comes down, the fence behind him explodes. The other prisoners reel back, totally confused by the blast. Standing in the smoke is Eliza, fist clenched. The inmates can only stare in disbelief, realizing a woman just blew through the barrier. The women prisoners immediately start panicking as the fence comes down. They scream for the guards, knowing the male inmates are about to pour in. The lead bully wastes no time, telling Eliza they should play until the guards show up. She just stares blankly at him, asking where he sees a man. She points right at the young kid. There are only 2 men here. It's just me and that kid over there. The boy looks up, completely stunned by her words. The bully scoffs, asking what she's talking about when she clearly has a woman's body. Eliza doesn't even look at him, instead shouting that she's talking about the heart inside one's balls. She continues her speech, asking what men's bodies and souls are even for. She then screams at the bullies that no matter how big they are, they're not even close to being the man that kid is, calling them all ball-less. The inmates are getting tired of her monologue, so the lead bully decides to cut in. He cracks his knuckles with a grin, declaring that from now on, they're going to do whatever they want. But Eliza just starts telling a story about her time in juvenile school. She recalls a reverend who used to visit and preach about God's love. The others were fed up with it, but she was different. The guys have no idea what she's talking about, but Eliza keeps going, explaining she was moved because the teacher's eyes were always so serious. He taught them that violence solves nothing, and that young people should use their power in a better way. Those words resonated with her deeply. She argues that those words only apply depending on the time and place. And right now, she's using her power to deliver a brutal knee to the bully's family jewels. The guy lets out a gut-wrenching scream. His crew can only look on as their leader gets taken down. She grabs him by the hair, vowing to make his balls regret what they've done. The other inmates are terrified, asking if she has a heart. Eliza just laughs, telling them it's fine since they'll never use them anyway. She screams at the top of her lungs that she told them they were all ball-less. Just then, the guards finally arrive, completely stunned by the destroyed fence. Standing over the bodies, Eliza decides she'll enjoy this second life to the fullest, even if it's hell. She turns to the guards who've just shown up, casually telling them they're late. Her actions land her in a detention cell. The guards outside her cell wonder what in the world she is. Eliza just gives them a grin and says, me. As they leave, one of them declares her fate is sealed anyway. A hearing is officially announced to determine if she's a spy for an enemy country. The prince looks directly at Princess Maria, telling her that if all her crimes are exposed and proven true, then that will be the moment. Then the verdict is death, a sentence a judge pronounces while looking directly at Eliza. So here is our MC standing before the court, waiting for her verdict. The crowd immediately starts throwing shade, calling her a traitor who tried to sell out her own country. But Eliza just grins, soaking in all the focused hatred coming her way. This kind of pressure was business as usual in his past life, but something about it feels different this time. She stands firm as the court session officially begins. The man in charge introduces himself as Sabaki, the chief judge. He declares that the trial of the 2 defendants will now begin. The judge lays out the stakes. This case could shake the whole country. So he's going to do things a little differently. He declares he's bringing out a national treasure, a magical tool that only he is allowed to use. He reveals the artifact, the Mouth of Truth, designed to see through any lie. To prove it works, he decides to run a quick test. He puts the vice judge on the spot, asking if he's hiding anything from his wife. The guy tries to play it cool, but the stone immediately starts freaking out. The message is clear. Not a single lie will get past the artifact. Eliza and the other defendant will be judged only on the truth. The trial gets underway with the prosecutor turning to the first defendant, a man named Hito Dono. He's accused of being a spy who conspired with Eliza. And with zero hesitation, the man just admits to everything. The quick confession sends a shockwave through the court. Even the magical artifact confirms it's true. The defendant smirks, thinking that if he's going down, he's taking that traitor Eliza down with him, forcing the judge to call for order. With one confession in the bag, the prosecutor turns his attention to Eliza. He accuses her of being the mastermind behind the plot to overthrow the princess. But Eliza just looks bored out of her mind. She casually cleans her ear and says she wasn't involved in anything. The prosecution loses it, shouting that her accomplice already admitted his guilt, so she should just give up. But as the court reels in confusion, the Mouth of Truth makes a shocking declaration. She isn't lying. Eliza glares back at them. Don't talk as you please, she warns. If you want to talk about breaking the law, I've done it plenty of times before. She calmly confesses to having a fight with the cops and blowing up the Capitol High School. To top it off, she adds that she nearly killed an opponent during a gang war, leaving the court speechless. She continues, explaining that she has zero interest in personal gain or backstabbing people. Everything she does is for the sake of protecting what's important to her and her comrades. She finishes her speech with a roar, declaring that now and forever, she'll never do anything that would bring her shame. The judge can't believe it, wondering aloud if the magical artifact is broken. Because right on cue, the Mouth of Truth starts freaking out, confirming Eliza's statement is true. He remembers testing the artifact just moments ago. He'd asked the vice judge if he was out with his lover, and when the man denied it, the Mouth of Truth immediately marked it as a lie. The judge grits his teeth, realizing the magic tool is working perfectly fine. He can't figure out what it means for both testimonies to be true when they completely contradict each other. The court struggles to understand how both testimonies could be true, but the reality is simple. The spy thought he'd successfully manipulated Eliza, but she was never on his side to begin with. The entire courtroom starts looking at Hido Dono with pity. He realizes they all see him as a total clown for getting played so badly. He completely loses it, screaming that Eliza is the one who's lying. The outburst just causes more confusion in the gallery. The mysterious shadowy man is stunned. He was just trying to keep her from saying anything stupid, but now he has no idea what's happening. All he can conclude is that Lady Eliza is a complete mystery. He figures it's a stroke of luck that the prince and princess are here to witness this. He decides he'll just take care of all of them along with the other useless bastards. Suddenly, one of the men in the gallery starts crying out in pain. He mentions he must have cut it earlier. The shadowy man looks down at his hand, noticing a fresh cut. The cut is actually caused by a shadowy man. Using his blood, he draws a magic circle and activates it. The magic instantly hits Hido Dono, who stares into his podium in shock. He clutches his head and begins to scream in absolute agony. Hido Dono's body shatters like glass from the head down. The entire courtroom looks on in stunned silence, completely confused about what's happening. The shards reform into a torrent of dark liquid that envelopes Hido. People in the gallery start to panic, realizing it's blood being sucked from everyone in the room. All the collected blood gathers into a strange mass hovering in the air. Eliza just stares up at it, unfazed, asking what the heck it's supposed to be. The blood solidifies, forming a grotesque, spindly monster that now hangs ominously over the courtroom. Without warning, the creature launches itself across the room. It's heading straight for the prince and princess in the royal seats. Before the monster can land its attack, Eliza intercepts it, shattering the tendril with a punch of her own. But the attack's momentum carries forward, slamming into the royal guards who were shielding the prince. The prince is knocked to the ground. Maria can only watch in horror as the grotesque creature reforms in the air. The princess lets out a terrified scream. Suddenly, Eliza's arm is wrapped in strange bindings as she smashes the monster's face with a powerful right hook. "Thanks, dude," she says. "I'm free of those shackles." She talks about repaying her debts and declares that from this moment on, the fight is hers. Then she turns to face the creature and says, "I'm gonna beat your ass." Eliza charges at the shadowy monster, ready to throw down, but she's stopped cold by a sudden shock to her system. A glitchy image from a storybook flashes in her mind, one showing herself standing next to the Grim Reaper. The vision slams into her. It's the storybook playing out in her mind again. In the latest development of the storybook version of events, the princess is saved thanks to the now reformed Villainess. But that isn't the end of it. After attacking the creature that appears during the trial, she betrays the princess again in an attempt to save herself. In the end, the noble girl who conspired against the king is executed. She questions if this is really her destiny, then gives fate a thumbs down. "Bring it on then, destiny." She stands firm in front of the princess, declaring that neither of them will die. Instead, they'll beat fate and live happily ever after. She screams for them to bring it on, ready for total domination. The force of her will seems to shatter the masked entity. Transformed Hido Dono lunging right at her. But Eliza just yells at it, "You've got some balls, dipshit, don't run away." The creature's true form towers over the courtroom, causing the crowd to panic and scream in terror. The creature dissolves into the man's skin with a sickening slurp. It burrows completely into his hand as he shrieks. The creature immediately starts taking over his body through the wound. Soon the entire crowd starts thrashing around, unable to control their own movements. While the princess is horrified, Eliza just eggs it on. Eliza internally screams for the possession to stop, but the crowd continues its rampage, completely out of control. For a moment, her body moves against her will, but when someone from the crowd yells at her to do something, she regains control and confirms she's on it. The man warns her she'll get in big trouble for this. Unfazed, Eliza just tells him to grit his teeth and unleashes a fiery kick right into him. The entire crowd seizes up, their bodies clenching beyond their control. Even Eliza is thrown to the ground, caught in the mass paralysis. The princess begins to panic, seeing no way out of this situation. Ignoring her, Eliza gets back on her feet, ready for another round. Eliza realizes that if this continues, every noble in the country will be wiped out. Just as she thinks this, a shadowy claw whips right past her face. The creature erupts into view, sends the crowd running and screaming in terror. She realizes the main body of the creature is making its move, and she's already bleeding. Even though she once took down a 200-man clan, fighting a whole crowd was never her strong suit. Besides, she's already injured and starting to falter. But Eliza isn't about to wait around. She smashes the creature with her drill hair, yelling at it to back off. A vision of her sister in the hospital flashes through her mind, her voice apologizing for failing to protect someone. Back in the present, the possessed nobles begin to move in a strange formation, leaving Eliza stunned. Then the creature and the possessed nobles charge toward her at once. It's like a royal rumble. Eliza realizes she's completely powerless to stop it. Beside her, the princess just screams in terror. A glowing magic circle appears on the floor beneath them. A shadowy claw then slams down on top of the princess's head. As Eliza realizes what's happening, the princess completely loses it. She screams that she's terrified and can't believe this is real. Eliza just blankly questions her use of the word duper. The princess realizes she's slipping into her dialect but says it's not important right now. The princess reveals she's erected a magic barrier passed down through the royal family. She announces that no one can get in from the outside. For a second, Eliza is actually impressed, telling the princess she's good. But the princess says there's a catch. The barrier eats a ton of mana and only lasts for 1 minute. With the clock ticking, she tells Eliza it's time for a crash course in how to use magic. The princess explains that while magic normally requires a guiding circle and takes time to learn, Eliza has enough power to just materialize it directly for defense. She tells Eliza to imagine her magic solidifying, then to compress and harden it. The final step is to strike it down like a blacksmith forging a blade. Eliza's mind immediately goes to the image of crushing a guy's face until it's crumpled. Seeing her expression, the terrified princess just says that if it's easy to imagine, then that works. It's the image that counts. The princess explains Eliza can embody whatever form works best, whether it's protective armor or even a dress. As the possessed nobles continue to creak and suffer, Eliza considers what form would be the best for her to use. The princess can't hold on any longer, her barrier beginning to crack under the strain. As the possessed nobles scream, Eliza braces herself. A moment later, the barrier shatters into pieces. In a flash of light, Eliza takes on her new form. Standing over the fallen nobles, she smirks. I see. This certainly fits me best. She has transformed her magic into her old biker gang's uniform, her special divine attack suit. The princess is absolutely horrified, screaming that this isn't what she had in mind at all. Eliza just grins back at her enemies, telling them that from now on, she'll show them no mercy. The brawl kicks off, but Eliza thinks this is awesome. With attacks this weak, she knows she'll be just fine. She throws on a gang jacket and it fits perfectly. Now she feels much better, sending goons flying with ease. The princess realizes that by using magic, Eliza is reinforcing her entire body. The princess insists they have to counterattack, but a new monster erupts from the ground. The creature's attack splatters her, and she confirms it's made of blood. Seeing its entire body is liquid, she wonders how you're even supposed to fight something like that. The princess realizes the monster is pure magic, meaning it must have a core. She figures its weak point has to be hidden under that mask. It seems to have sensed Eliza's power because it's keeping its distance. She just needs one more clean shot at the mask to take it down. Eliza is ready to move but hesitates, asking what the princess will do. The princess tells her not to be concerned. As a member of the royal family, the princess can create her own barrier. However, it will only last about 15 seconds, but for Eliza that's good enough. She charges forward, thinking back to her old gang days. She's always been good at a brawl. With only 15 seconds on the clock, Eliza knows she just has to push forward. She immediately charges straight at the enemy. She effortlessly weaves through their clumsy attacks, dropping the goons one by one with a quick succession of kicks. The monster unleashes a blast that takes out its own allies, but Eliza is already in the air, closing the distance to her real target. She stays locked on her approach. The monster is too fast though, swinging its arm around and piercing right through her. Except it was all a fake out. With a grin she says, "Sorry fucker." She tightens her grip on its limb, letting it know, "I caught you." She calls him out for just sneaking around in the shadows to manipulate people. With less than 3 seconds on the clock, she screams that she hates guys like him the most. Her punch shatters the creature's mask into pieces. The force of the blow sends them both flying. Hito Dono admits her punch actually hurt, remarking that she's pretty good. But the masked man warns him not to get it twisted. This isn't the end, and he will be back. He promises to kill her next time. Unfazed, Eliza just tells him to bring it on, because she'll get him back as many times as it takes. And just like that, the timer hits 0. Back at the party, everyone is suddenly able to move again. The spell has been broken. The princess is just glad it ended in time. The scene changes to a courtroom where Eliza stands before the judge. He announces that the court has not yet made a verdict. Despite the murky details, there was no solid evidence to corroborate the crime. The princess reflects that the assassin was definitely targeting the royal family. But the prince realizes he can't sense any hostility from Eliza, especially after she risked her own life. The judge looks down, announcing that based on these observations he has a decision. He declares, "Elizabeth Zokwark, you are found not guilty." The judge leans in with a final piece of advice, telling her to be careful. He warns her that because of what happened, she won't just be a target for other countries. Now, even their own nobles might come after her. But that warning just makes her grin. Very good. She's always been treated like the bad guy, so this is nothing new. No matter what stands in her way, she's gonna do things her own way. She walks off without a second thought. She's not about to run and hide from anyone. Finally free from the courthouse, Ruji takes in a deep breath of the outside air. Now she's officially a free woman. But freedom doesn't bring relief. Sitting on the courthouse steps, she stares ahead in silence. The battle is over, yet a new question hangs in the air. What is she supposed to do now? He admits to the original Eliza that he doesn't know anything about her life. Still, he figures if things get tough, he can always work a part-time job like he did back in his own world. Suddenly, a fancy carriage screeches to a stop directly in front of him. The door swings open and a man's voice calls out, asking if the young lady is safe. A sharply dressed man presents himself with a bow. He is Furzin, the butler from the house of Zokwark, and he has come to pick her up. The butler urges her into the carriage to rest after the trial. Ruji realizes this must be Eliza's family, seeing a perfect opportunity to score some shelter. The butler informs her that her father is still abroad. The rest of the family, however, has been eagerly awaiting her homecoming. As they travel, the carriage passes through the city streets. From the carriage, Eliza observes the lifeless faces of the people, wondering if the country is just poor. The sight brings back memories of his past life, reminding him how poverty can rob people of their pride. The carriage pulls up to the Zokwark family manor. A line of maids gives her a sparkling welcome home, but she does not look pleased by the reception. The butler suggests she must be tired. One of the maids then freaks out over the state of her dress, insisting they change her clothes immediately. The maids throw open a huge wardrobe for Eliza to choose from, but one of them immediately panics over her mistake. She explains that the young lady should never wear the same dress twice, and this particular wardrobe was just for show. Another maid offers her a dress made from an endangered species, but she turns it down, saying she just wants something that's easy to move in. As she's deciding, Furzin the butler pops in to let her know that dinner is ready whenever she is. Downstairs, a massive feast is waiting for her, with the staff insisting they ordered only the best. Furzin tells her not to hesitate, because any leftovers will simply be thrown away. The butler laughs, gloating that the local farmer's bad harvest is irrelevant because they just imported food. To him, the sight of these struggling lawlifers is the finest spice. Before he can finish, Eliza delivers a swift kick to his face, sending the plates flying. "Do you bastards know how many people are starving?" she shouts. "You could be saving people with all this food." Furzin argues back that there's no need to care about the poor. In fact, he claims it's their duty to make the lower class aware of their place in the world. She clenches her teeth, seething at their attitude. Completely fed up, she storms off. "Enough, I'm going back to my room, and no one is allowed in." Furzin bangs on the door, begging for her to talk to him. Furzin begs for her to wait, but the maids can only gossip amongst themselves, wondering if she went crazy in custody. She's run off to a desolate, rundown part of the country. Turns out, while Furzin was banging on the door, she was already making her escape out the window. Down in the ruins, she can't stand her new clothes. "I can't stay in that place no more. This dress is itching and it's freezing." She realizes there were people just like this in her old world, and it makes her sick to think she's become one of them. A group of villagers suddenly appear, begging for medicine. One man cries that without it, his wife will never be able to move again. A shady dealer and his crew step up, offering to sell them all they want. But the villagers don't have that kind of money, and call him out for not mentioning the medicine was addictive. The dealer just kicks one of the men to the ground. He tells them to screw off if they have a problem, knowing they can't get a doctor anywhere else. That's when Eliza finally makes her move, appearing right behind him. She calls his little operation a gathering of parasites that prey on the weak, just like the ones from her old world. And she adds, she's had to wipe out every single one she's ever met. The dealer grabs her by the collar, demanding to know who this noble chick thinks she's messing with. She answers with her fists, instantly dropping the guy with a move she calls Iron Fist Punishment. His crew can't believe how far he was sent flying. Even from the ground, the dealer tries to pull rank, asking if she knows who's backing him. Eliza just smirks, completely unimpressed. "Okay, well, I'll take care of that one too, I guess." His goons grab their boss and make a run for it. As they flee, they shout that she'll regret messing with the bat wings. She watches them go, thinking their threats don't change a thing. But the villagers are freaking out, not celebrating. They yell at her, asking what she's going to do when the gang comes back to retaliate. She looks back with a serious expression, admitting that's the trickiest part. Turns out, when people get used to terrible conditions, they get anxious about any kind of change. They have no real intention of breaking the status quo. To deal with people like that, you have to take a different approach. Eliza wonders what all the fuss is about. A villager tells her he saw a couple of the Batwings guys running away. Suddenly a kid points at her in shock, recognizing her as the big sister who helped him in prison. Eliza has no idea who he is. Elsewhere, the gang members report back to their boss. Hearing that a blonde, drill-haired noble girl interfered, the boss realizes it must be Lady Eliza. He sees this once again, "You stand in my way. This time I'll definitely put you down." Out in the wastes, Eliza runs into the kid from prison, asking if he's the brave boy she remembers. The kid immediately scoffs, as if he thanks her for helping him escape, but she's just annoyed she couldn't get home sooner. The boy excitedly points toward the horizon. "There it is, that's our village." But as they arrive, Eliza sees the place is in tatters, noting that the air itself feels heavy. Suddenly, unseen villagers start talking trash. "Look who showed up. You came to learn about the poor." The villagers are in rough shape, complaining that they don't have much money and supplies are running out. One of them complains about having no home and barely enough to eat, then questions why a noble was brought here. The young boy tries to defend Eliza, insisting that she's different. They completely misunderstand the situation, shouting that they have a right to live there and can't be kicked out. Without saying a word, she just grabs the lizard off the stick and takes a huge bite. She thinks it's pretty yummy, and after casually apologizing for eating their food, she offers them something else instead. She presents a large bag of food she brought from her place. The villagers are ecstatic and Eliza smirks, thinking she's going to like it here. As they walk, the boy explains the village is a refuge for all sorts of people. Many lost their homes in disasters or are just refugees with nowhere else to go. He says that he and his sister are among them, pulling back a curtain to show her their home. Inside, a young girl weakly welcomes her brother back before asking if Eliza is his friend. The girl suddenly starts coughing, and her brother rushes over telling her to lie down, she needs rest. The boy explains his sister's condition is unknown because the people in the city won't sell them any medicine. On top of that, local thugs are charging them way over market price for supplies. His sister tries to put on a brave face, telling him not to worry about her. This triggers a flashback to a happier time, where a young Saki proudly presents a flower crown she made for her brother. The two get ready to play as their caretakers watch, commenting on how well the siblings get along. It's revealed that their family runs one of the largest companies in Japan, and Ryuji is destined to inherit it all. His father tells him he'll become a man worthy of that crown, using it to protect his sister and everyone else, and the young boy eagerly accepts his role. But that perfect world comes crashing down, as Ryuji father at a podium announces to the world that they can't pay their debts and are declaring bankruptcy. The headlines confirm the total collapse of the Awama company, showing they're no longer on the stock market after investors pulled out. And just like that, their entire life is gone. Their father, now a wreck, comes at them in a drunken rage. He smashes a bottle, screaming about where the money he wanted for alcohol is. Their father completely breaks down, screaming that none of this should have ever happened. Ryuji can only hold his sister tight as he realizes they now live in a shithole. He grabs his sister and makes a run for it, escaping out into the pouring rain. He finds a place to hide, thinking their dad won't follow them this far. But then he realizes the truth. No, he won't bother looking in the first place. He tries to put on a brave face, telling her he's 15 now and can get a job if they pretend to be orphans. But Saki can only ask, "What about father?" He looks her in the eye, saying it's best they stay away from that man for now. He promises she'll understand when she's older. With his sister on his shoulders, he tells her it's time for a change and she silently agrees. He screams that from now on, they have nothing to do with the Awama name because they're going to become a new family. He vows to plow through any obstacle and overcome any sadness. They will run towards a better future and never look back. Saki looks up with a smile, saying she hopes they can do it. Her big brother just says, "Okay." He makes a solemn vow to protect his sister. He's ready to do whatever it takes to give her a happy life. His sister lying in a hospital bed can only apologize. The doctor tells him not to blame himself, because the cost of her treatment was far more than he could ever afford. He stands alone in the pouring rain. He admits their father is missing and that he failed to support them, lamenting that he couldn't do anything. Suddenly a group of guys shows up, accusing a family of talking trash and trying to ruin their family's reputation. The man insists he didn't do anything, but the thugs just mock him for not being able to protect his woman. Suddenly, a brutal punch comes flying in and lands square on one of the thugs' faces. It was thrown by our boy, shocking the thugs, who immediately demand to know who he is. Deep down, he realizes he's always wanted to fight for something, but this is actually his first real fight. Given that his first fight was against a group of armed men, it makes sense that he lost pretty quickly. The gang can't believe he took on 13 of them, and as they move in to finish him, a fist comes flying at his face. The man in sunglasses taunts him, asking if that's all the strength he can muster. Another gang member identifies him as the strongest of the Heat gang. Suddenly, a new crew arrives on a motorcycle. The leader recognizes the kid being beaten as someone who helped him in the past. He asks for the kid's name before they jump in. And so Eliza's flashback to her past life ends. Back in the present day, someone asks if she's okay. Eliza apologizes for spacing out. The young boy explains that he needs money to buy medicine for his sister's symptoms. But the Eliza just says it's no use, leaving boy to wonder why. Eliza explains that since they're the only sellers on the market, they can raise the price as much as they want, creating a monopoly that everyone is addicted to. Eliza says that if they want to change things, they have to fight back. When the weak resist, they need to work together, and the boy finally understands what he needs to do. With a grin, she declares her plan. She's going to take charge and form a gang in the village to create a new world. Elsewhere, Princess Maria, looking completely drained after her rescue. Every day she visits the homes of nobles, and every time she's scolded. Since the prince she married came from another country, they knew they wouldn't be welcome. She tries to build up her courage, telling herself she needs to be strong, just like Eliza. She wonders how Eliza is doing. She heard that Eliza had disappeared after the court incident. And just as she's thinking about her, she spots Eliza on the street below. From her carriage, Princess Maria shouts for the driver to stop. Eliza turns around, wondering who's calling her name. Eliza can't believe it's the princess. Maria quickly asks what she's even doing in a place like this. With a wild grin, Eliza announces she's making a gang and preparing for a revolt. Her answer leaves the princess and the young boy completely stunned. The kid explains the nasty rumors going around. He says people believe the princess seduced everyone in the castle and is the reason taxes for commoners are about to go up. Eliza gives her a skeptical look, asking if she's really into that sort of thing. The princess immediately and passionately denies the accusations. The rumors claim she's just buying fancy dresses every day and collecting handsome men from around the world to build her own harem. Princess Maria explains that all the scandals are made up by the royal palace. The nobles are afraid of losing face if she doesn't maintain a lavish lifestyle. Maria admits that's just an excuse to the common kids, even if it's true they live better lives. This whole situation gives Eliza a massive headache. A flashback reveals the truth. The original Eliza started the rumors because Maria was known as the brightest girl in the country, and she needed to be taken down a peg. She found it was easy and fun to manipulate everyone. As the princess calls out to her, Eliza puts it all together. She understands that this must be the next part of the story's scenario. It clicks for Eliza. The original owner of her body was the one who started all the rumors about the princess. Realizing she can't just leave the princess alone, Eliza sees this situation is going to be more complex than she thought. The princess asks what she means by that, but Eliza just smirks. Don't worry about it, she says, I'm not doing anything illegal. Suddenly, a guy comes running through town shouting for help. The bat wings are here, and they're looking for Eliza. Without hesitation, Eliza clicks her tongue and takes off. The princess yells after her, but Eliza just waves to her, saying she'll see her later. Just then, one of the bat wings grabs a local by the shirt, demanding to know where the drill-haired girl is. The dude he's shaking down pleads for his life, but before the goon can finish his threat, a flying kick sends him sideways. He staggers back to his feet and points right at Eliza, telling her to come quietly. She doesn't seem to mind at all. With a wild grin, she announces, "Here I am, bitch boy." She sighs, asking him to make it quick. The goon just grins, telling her to come with him. The goon orders the crowd to tie Eliza up, offering them all drugs as a reward. The villagers plead with her, saying they need the medicine just to live. But Eliza remains defiant, telling them to come and get her if they dare. She knows what it's like to lose someone you love. She says they'll spend every day wishing they could have done more. As the villagers flinch, he screams at them, asking if they're just going to let their families die. Spurred into action, the young boy dashes forward. The young boy suddenly presents a huge sack full of medicine, stunning the gang members. With a smirk, Eliza announces, "Order up, medicine for everyone." While the villagers are in disbelief, the enforcer is absolutely furious. Eliza just explains that she got her hands on some spare change. It's revealed she just went to her own house and ordered movers to clear the place out. Her butler pleads with her, knowing he'll get in trouble, but she just tells them to take everything. The enforcer tries to turn the crowd against her. He yells at them not to take the medicine, claiming she'll charge them even more than his gang does. But Eliza doesn't even deny it. She just looks back at him and says, "Yup, you are kinda right." The villagers are stunned, but Eliza tells them she can't just give them handouts forever. If they need something, they have to work for it. An old man pleads with her to stop making their lives harder, but she just calls it a fair trade. She insists she's only trying to make things easier for them. She wants them to run toward a better future. The Batwing enforcer loses it, screaming that they need his medicine or they'll die in pain. When the villagers question if it even works, he demands their money if they don't want to die. Suddenly, a rock smacks the enforcer right in the side of the head. The enforcer screams at the old geezer for stepping up, but the old man has had enough, declaring that he's done with all their scams. He says the whole village is fed up with being left in ruins. He admits he started to believe they were less than city folk, that being treated like vermin was normal. And it was all a lie. The old man concludes the gang doesn't even see them as human. The old man sees this as a chance for a better future, an opportunity to be treated like a human again. He's in favor of the plan, saying it's what he selfishly wants. With a wild grin, Eliza gives a thumbs down. "Well said, Grandpa," she says, impressed it takes a good set of balls to go against the big guy like that. The old man gets embarrassed, saying he didn't really do much. But the kid is fired up, screaming at everyone for just standing around talking. The kid keeps going, telling the crowd that if they do nothing, the gang will suck them dry for every last coin they have. They'll all suffer the same fate until the day they die. His speech works and the crowd gets furious. They screams at the gang, "This is our village, get out." The villagers finally snap and start pelting the gang members with rocks. The whole crowd roars for the thugs to scram and get out. The enforcer is pissed, warning them they're going to regret this. But the villagers don't care, they just cheer, celebrating their victory. Eliza seems impressed, thinking it took real guts to pull that off. The young boy can only stare, realizing that this strange noble, unlike everyone else, actually helped them. One of the men is impressed, commenting that the villagers look even manlier after that showdown. With a smirk, Eliza tells them they will all make a fine gang under a new name. The young boy gets fired up, declaring them a pack of wolves rising against the evil that oppressed them. She raises a flag revealing their new official name, the Dark Eternal Hot Dog. And now Eliza leading her own crew. They proudly declare they'll live with honor under their new name, the Dark Eternal Hot Dog. Elsewhere, the leader of the Bat Wings is furious that his men couldn't even manage to capture one girl. He shoves his subordinate to the ground, sick of hearing excuses. The goon tries to explain that she's dangerously strong, but his boss just complains that he has to do everything himself. He tells his crew not to panic, revealing he has an ace up his sleeve. He's confident this little girl is practically already dead, thanks to his specialist trained in the art of killing. The boss presents his trump card, a man with slicked back hair and a wild grin. This new guy is more than ready to show everyone not to mess with them. Eliza makes a grand entrance, running over one of the bat wings on her demon horse. The specialist watches her go, thinking to himself that this job was way too easy. She pats her new ride, impressed by the strength of the great demon horse. She turns to the assassin with a casual sup. He just screams back at her in rage. She sarcastically thanks them for inviting a lady to a tea party, but the hooded man isn't playing along. Eliza arrives on the scene and immediately roasts their hideout, calling it ass. Asks if he's the one in charge. She flashes a sharp grin, putting the pieces together. Eliza asks if he's the one who tried to off her in the courtroom, and he simply confirms it. He declares that now she can finally kill him for good. The boss mocks her for walking right into his trap. He snaps his fingers and summons a shadowy creation, telling her she just made his job easier. His creation turns out to be a massive enforcer. Eliza seems to recognize him, and the dude has a sudden, painful flashback before vowing to turn her into mush. Eliza wonders if she's seen this guy before, but he's already in a full-blown panic, screaming his head off about the crazy bitch. The enforcer immediately drops to his knees, begging her to spare his family jewels. Eliza just looks down on him and asks what the hell his problem is. With a shout of "right on," she charges straight through them. The goons yell for everyone to get her and not let her leave. The assassin taunts her for running away, but his mockery is cut short when one of his men gets clocked in the throat. He spins around in shock, demanding to know who's there. Eliza charges straight through them on her demon horse. The assassin is floored, wondering how these malnourished guys from the slums are putting up a real fight. One of the fighters fires back, letting them know they haven't seen anything yet. The scene cuts to a few hours ago. The slum dwellers were dead set against fighting, convinced it was a suicide mission. Eliza lays into them, telling them they need to be tougher if they want freedom. But one of the guys starts to argue back. He lays out the facts, stating the Bat Wings have 40 members who are all physically stronger and healthier than they are. He insists that facing them now would be suicidal, and even a victory would come at a great cost. Eliza just looks at him and asks if he has any plans then. The guy confidently replies that he does. His big idea is spears. That way they can fight while keeping their distance from the enemy. When asked how they'll fight, he starts drawing a map in the dirt, revealing he already scouted the enemy's lair. He points out that there are 9 entrances on the ground floor alone. He tells the group they'll be focusing on the entry points, posting 5 people at each one. The second an enemy tries to get out, they'll all attack at once. This way, they can maximize offense while minimizing casualties, and as the woman adds, they don't need many resources to pull it off. Because they won't be entering the building, they can easily retreat if they need to. Eliza calls it a chokehold strategy, and another guy asks if he's sure he's never been in a gang, but the planner just says he thought it was a good idea. The planner's strategy completely flips the script, and suddenly the slum dwellers believe they actually have a shot at winning. They even start running drills to practice taking down the thugs. Eliza watches as the plan comes together, realizing that fighting back is building trust among the men. The kid looks on, now seen as a real leader. But as the fight kicks off, a mysterious hooded figure appears out of nowhere. The men are caught off guard by the smoke, wondering if they should attack. The figure remains silent, summoning a magic circle. Elsewhere, the battle is going so well that the planner yells out that they're going to win. The fight is interrupted by a sudden explosion of smoke. The slum dwellers are caught off guard, but Eliza immediately senses that something is moving inside the cloud. As the smoke clears, Eliza recognizes the hulking man as a foe from before. The mysterious hooded figure chimes in, revealing this powered-up goon as their ace in the hole. The figure explains how they created this monster. He laced their drug supply with his own blood, feeding it all to this one guy to turn him into a magic-controlled biological weapon. The hooded man threatens to take out all the slum dwellers next. The planner is in shock while Eliza sizes up the enemy, comparing him to an orc from a JRPG. The newly formed beast roars that they won't be returning alive. Eliza just smirks, thinking this fight is actually going to be fun. Without warning, the beast man lunges at the villagers, throwing them into complete shock. The kid is completely terrified, frozen on the ground as he stares at the beast man. He desperately calls out Eliza's name, but it seems she's already been taken down, causing the villagers to panic. But just as they lose hope, Eliza gets back on her feet with a menacing grin, ready for more. The big guy looks impressed, noting it's been a while since he could fight someone on equal footing. In a flash, Eliza's clothes change as she gets ready for a real fight, and tells him she's going to kick his ass. She rushes in and their fists collide in a burst of energy. The big guy looks down, confused as his hand seems to be dissolving. Eliza looks at her own fist, thinking that it feels almost the same as before. She's not even sure if this new form is an improvement. But the man's hand starts to regenerate, reforming completely. He grins as he pulls back for another powerful swing. The punch connects and Eliza struggles to block the attack. She can't believe how heavy his blow is. The big guy boasts his punch is heavier than a lariat and hits harder than a steel bat. He explains that he uses magic to make his blood as hard as steel. The impact slams Eliza into the ground, knocking her out cold as the villagers watch in horror. With his opponent down, the hulking man turns his attention to the crowd. But then a voice calls out from behind, "Don't do that. It's our MC Eliza, back on her feet, saying things are just getting interesting." The hulking man is shocked she's still standing, but Eliza just smirks. She tells him the party was just getting started. Ignoring the villagers' cries that she'll collapse, she launches herself at him for round 2. As she soars through the air, ready to strike, the villagers can only watch with tears streaming down their faces. Their fear turns into hope as the crowd roars, screaming their support for their new boss. It turns out the original Ryuji had a special characteristic. Ryuji had a history of suicide attacks on enemy gangs, which once led to him almost being killed by the Yakuza. But the more dangerous the situation, the hotter his blood gets, boiling and burning. She unloads a flurry of blows, but it's still not enough to take him down. He managed to withstand her attack, and she realizes her power isn't enough. She needs a decisive factor. Suddenly, a voice reminds her that the most important thing is imagination. She just has to imagine her power and the form that best fits it. She realizes that up until now, she's been focused on defense. To end this, she needs to augment her strength for one final blow. Instead of just trying to protect people, she needs to focus on her own attack. She just has to imagine one good strike that will blow him away. She knows it's a gamble, but she only gambles to win. The villagers can't just stand by and watch her fight alone, but the kid tells them they're misunderstanding the situation. They want to fight together, but the kid holds them back. He explains that it's frustrating, but they would only get in the way. The kid, explaining that instead of fighting, there's only one thing they can do to help. Though he's running out of breath, he rallies the crowd to push her forward with their support, and they all begin to scream, "Glory to the dark eternal hot dog." The entire village roars with encouragement, screaming for their boss to win it once and for all. It turns out this is Ryuji's second characteristic, the power to be praised by his subordinates. The original Ryuji made a name for himself when he was young, but his true potential only awakened after becoming president. She decides to end this now. A memory reminds her that true power is necessary for protecting the defenseless. With her heart ablaze, she launches herself forward. Her fist connects, rattling the huge man's entire body. She channels all of her energy into one final, overwhelming punch. She screams for him to disappear as the blow lands. A massive shockwave rocks the area, but the duel isn't over yet. She puts everything she has into one final punch, screaming that this is everything she's got. As the dust settles, the villagers can only ask if she managed to take him down. She wonders if he'll get back up, but decides he looks completely done. Lying on the ground, she admits she's tired and not used to fighting like this. It feels just like the time the Yakuza buried him in concrete, leaving him unable to move. But the giant man begins to stir, and the villagers scream for everyone to get away. The giant is slammed back to the ground, finally out for the count. With the monster defeated, the villagers erupt in celebration. Her followers praise their boss for the win, declaring that they're finally free. Still, she wonders if it's really over. Meanwhile, the boy admits that some of the enemy gang members escaped in the chaos. As she plans their next move to gather information, a loud voice suddenly commands everyone to stop. An armored squadron appears, identifying themselves as the town's peacekeeping force and telling nobody to move. The guards declare that everyone present is under arrest for disturbing public order. But the villagers desperately try to explain that they're the victims here, not the Bat Gang. Still on the ground, Eliza realizes she didn't make it in time. The captain wastes no time and orders his men to arrest them all. But just as the guards move in, a voice cuts in, telling them to wait. The boy recognizes the newcomer immediately. It's Princess Maria, and everyone is stunned to see her. The princess quickly claims that the villagers are with her. She explains they were on a discreet assignment and asks the guards to call off the arrests. The guard captain isn't convinced. He tells the princess he hasn't received any such orders, and as the one in charge of public order, her request is unacceptable. He tells her to stay out of his way, stating she has no authority to interfere with the law. The princess seems to back down, offering a quiet apology. But she grips her dress, telling herself she can't back down when Eliza needs her. She raises her voice, demanding to know if her word isn't enough. The guard curses under his breath before finally submitting to her authority. She then orders them to disperse, declaring the people innocent. She tells him that while he may be right, she is a member of the royal family. As the guards march away, the princess finally lets out a sigh of relief. The villagers crowd around her, showering her with praise and apologizing for ever judging her wrong. Maria tries to downplay it, saying she was just acting strong. Eliza knew she'd come through, offering a quiet thanks for the save. It's revealed this was all part of Eliza's plan. She'd asked the princess to bail them out if a riot started near the slums, realizing now that it barely worked out. Back then, everyone gossiped about her. They called her the brightest girl in the country, but whispered that she needed to be taken down a peg. The book changes again. Eliza thinks she was able to alter the scenario by not directly involving the princess, who admits she never knew she could speak with such authority. The princess beams, admitting she has a little more confidence now, but Eliza just smirks, telling her she's grown some balls. Suddenly, a voice calls out from a ruined building, telling them to check something out. Inside, the villagers have found a stash of food and medicine. The young boy breaks down in tears, relieved that he can finally treat his sick sister. He celebrates his small victory, and Eliza quietly watches him. No matter how deep the darkness, they fought through it and came out alive. This is their beginning. With her clothes finally sorted out, Eliza immediately pivots to her next demand. She's starving and wants to know what's for dinner. But then a familiar voice cuts through the night, calling out to Eliza, "Big brother." Maria apologizes for the weird question, then just comes right out with it. "Miss Eliza, you're not from this world, are you?" Eliza is, and then Maria drops the biggest bomb of all. "I was reincarnated from another world as well. In my previous life, my name was Saki Gamba." Oh boy, what a plot twist. The new chapter opens with Ryuji at his sister's side, begging her to stay with him, but Saki can only apologize as she fades away. Her last thought is a simple wish to be happier, just like the princess in her fairy tale, before the monitor goes silent. Elsewhere, a new life begins as a midwife congratulates a couple on their baby girl. The father proudly declares that she will be the next princess. But the baby seems a little too aware of the situation. Before she knew it, Saki realized she'd been reincarnated into another world. And not just any world, she was the princess from her favorite story. Though she misses her brother sometimes, her new parents are kind. They even taught her how to use magic. Her parents are absolutely stunned, calling her royal spell super duper awesome. So, she just straight up asks her mother if she also reincarnated. Her parents are not taking the news well. Saki immediately regrets her choice of words. Her parents are already spiraling, stressing that if this gets out it could become a national crisis. It turns out, people from other worlds have been reincarnating here since ancient times. And the process follows strict rules. The era someone lived in back in Japan determines which region they're reborn into, and it even affects the names of the countries. Her father explains that these people often bring new technology and magic into the world. In times of war, they were treated as precious assets. But her father continues, explaining that in times of peace, reincarnated people are seen as nothing but trouble who only bring disaster. Her parents begin to completely spiral over the revelation. When Saki tries to object, her father immediately screams for her to be quiet. He strictly forbids her from ever speaking about this to anyone. A series of images flash by, hinting that history is bound to repeat itself. As a final mercy, he declares that while he will spare her life, she is no longer his daughter. From that day forward, she was totally shunned. Her parents directed all of their love and affection to her newborn brother instead. 10 years later, she was called before her father. He had summoned her for an arranged marriage. She realizes that preventing a war was a good thing, but to her parents she was just a peace offering. All she ever wanted was a good family. Instead, she just ended up being used by them. Still, she tries to look on the bright side, figuring the prince seems like a nice person to start over with. But a moment later, another woman accidentally spills wine all over her dress. The woman mockingly apologizes for being so careless as her friend snickers. She realizes this is another problem she'll have to deal with. Hito Dono charges Princess Maria with espionage. A blonde noblewoman laughs about seeing a rat in the halls. She adds that it's too bad the prince is engaged to it. She understands now that no one is on her side, and no one is going to help her. Out of nowhere, Eliza just decks the Hito Dono, sending him flying. As the party erupts, Maria is left totally confused by the situation. Eliza yells at her to use her head and stop letting people walk all over her. That's when she realizes something. Eliza has changed. She defended them. And she even fought a monster for their sake. This was nothing like the fairy tale she remembered reading as a child. The scene then returns to the present. The story Saki had been reading comes to a close. The heroines fought through everything and survived, marking a new beginning. Looking up at Eliza, Maria asks a single question, "Big brother?" She explains that Eliza acts just like her brother. She'd always hoped to find him again, so she could finally thank him for taking care of her. Suddenly, Eliza pulls Maria into an embrace. Maria comforts her, saying it's okay, I'm here. The crowd just watches, completely confused by the emotional scene. But a moment later, the entire crowd erupts into cheers and applause. Elsewhere, a shadowy figure contemplates his failure. With Eliza now in the mix, he knows he'll need a much better plan. Voices from several floating phones berate him for not solving anything. He calmly replies that these were nothing but his experiments. He muses that everything has a time and place, and soon he will be done with both of them. He assures them that everything will go according to plan. The voices agree to give him one last chance. However, they warn him that if he fails again, his head will be the price. He curses Eliza, angry that she so easily dispatched his last pawn. Suddenly, his door slams open, and standing in the doorway is Eliza herself. She locks eyes with the mastermind, who just stares back with a sinister grin. Sometime later, Eliza strolls back into her home and casually asks her attendant, Furs, to make her something to eat. He immediately freaks out when he sees her tattered clothes, but she couldn't care less. Hearing her command a feast for everyone, Furs is overjoyed, calling it the happiest day of his life. On a lovely day at the mansion, a grand feast is underway. One of the refugee kids is chowing down with everything he's got. Eliza hypes up the crowd, telling everyone to enjoy the food and stuff their faces until they can't anymore. She leans back with a huge laugh, wondering when she was last able to smile like this. Maybe being reincarnated was worth it just for this moment. With new allies joining the dark eternal hot dog, the future is looking bright for the whole crew. Later on, Eliza sits down with Saki for a private chat, asking her how life has been. Eliza offers her support in her own way, declaring that if Saki has trouble with anyone, her fist is ready to help. Saki thinks that's a bit much even for her big bro. Saki admits that growing up here was a bit bumpy, but none of that matters anymore. Eliza just smirks, saying it seems like you don't even need a truck to get Isekai'd these days. Bro truck not needed here. Saki doesn't know how it happened either, but she's grateful to whatever brought them together. She's sure her wish was heard, giving her a chance to live a peaceful and happy life. She even has a fiancé now. Eliza can't believe it's the same guy. What do you see in him, she asks. Saki replies that he's very loving and kind. Saki continues explaining that while he's sensitive under pressure, he's also responsible, and that's why she wants to support him. And at that exact moment, the prince starts coughing violently, spitting whatever he just drank all over the table. Saki announces her plan to make the engagement official at the next event they host. It's happening in just a few days, and Eliza gives her approval. Saki vows that this time they'll find happiness together, and Eliza fiercely agrees. A few days later, the day of the party arrives, and the place is packed with people. Eliza takes it all in, wondering if she's become famous for saving this place. As she chugs a bottle, a couple of guys start gossiping about how much trouble she is. Unlucky for them, she's listening to every word. She snaps, yelling that the last beatdown wasn't enough to teach them a lesson, and they immediately start begging for forgiveness. She lets them off with a warning, saying they're lucky she promised Saki she'd control herself today. An attendant suddenly calls for silence. He announces the arrival of the prince and princess. The prince addresses the crowd, thanking them for coming and gesturing to the woman beside him. Down below, Eliza keeps a close eye on the situation. An official announces they have an important statement to make, and the guests begin to speculate. The prince then drops a bombshell. He had considered marrying his fiancée Maria, but claims he recently discovered she is a spy. Maria is in total disbelief, asking what he could possibly mean. Before anyone else can react, Eliza absolutely explodes with rage. Eliza tries to rush forward, but guards immediately cross blades to block her path. She calls them future corpses, as the prince thinks about how this was supposed to be a simple marriage alliance. The prince continues his speech, claiming that while he acted like the perfect partner, Maria's true goal was sabotage. The accusations against the princess were true all along. The prince orders the guards to arrest her as a violent criminal. Confused Maria can only ask why this is happening. As the guards grab Princess Maria, she desperately yells out that this is all a mistake. She pleads with her brother to intervene, but they're already dragging her away. Eliza shoves a guard out of her way, but a sharp pain suddenly shoots through her head. Down below notes that the story is changing again. The storybook flashes back to how the princess was unceremoniously carried away. She was arrested for espionage, and her beauty couldn't save her from being condemned to the guillotine. Back in the present, the prince completely ignores Eliza's collapse. He declares there are more important matters to attend to. The alliance with Heiz is doomed, which means they are alone in the coming war. He screams that they must solidify the union of their country. He turns to Eliza Zokvac, daughter of one of the most respected families, and asks her to take his hand in marriage as a symbol of that union. Eliza's brain completely short-circuits at the sudden proposal. The storybook flashes to the prince proposing to Lady Eliza, claiming she accepted with great fervor. They then married and ruled the kingdom happily ever after, a perfect storybook conclusion. But back in reality, Eliza's mind is screaming, what kind of shitty-ass ending is that? inside a grand hall where the prince is formally requesting Elisa's hand in marriage. But her response is anything but royal, screaming that he must be insane. Elisa yells right back that she's not getting caught dead with a femboy. She launches a flying kick right at his face. Her rage is fueled by memories of him hurting her sister. But she stops short, realizing the bigger picture. Attacking the prince means making an enemy of the entire country. Still, if she lets this go on, her sister Saki will be executed. She knows she needs to be smart about this. Her brilliant plan is to simply run for it. She yells that she'll kick his ass later and just bolts, leaving the onlookers completely baffled. She steals her resolve, remembering she's done this before and can do it again. She just needs to think of a way to change this ending. A carriage is escorted by armed guards through the pouring rain. Inside, Princess Maria reflects on the prince's actions. She knew his behavior wasn't normal, that something strange had definitely happened to him. But she knows no one would believe her, they never do. All she can do is wonder what will happen to her. Suddenly, the procession is halted by a robed figure in the middle of the road. The lead guard looks down, demanding to know what's going on. The guard immediately asks if he caused the storm, but the figure just dismisses him, saying the storm's not his problem because he has his own troubles to deal with. The entire convoy grinds to a halt in the mud. From the cliffs above, a group of robed figures gets the signal to attack. They unleash their ambush, sending boulders crashing down on the royal guards. Inside the carriage, the princess is rattled by the sudden violence, wondering what's happening. She hears footsteps getting closer. A hand reaches out and rips the bars open. The hooded figure is now inside the carriage with her. She backs away, yelling at him to stay away from her. The figure simply tells her to calm down, which only confuses her more. He pulls back his hood, and she's shocked to see it's the young boy she met before. Another roadman pops up, teasing that the kid planned this whole thing just for her, but the boy tells him to get lost. He explains that Miss Elisa sent them on a mission to rescue her, but the princess worries that escaping will make her a fugitive. The boy doesn't pull any punches, asking her what's so bad about being a fugitive when the alternative is execution. The revelation leaves her completely stunned. He tells her he's taking her back to his village. It's so run down and isolated that it's the perfect hiding spot. Elsewhere, an operative confirms that the heavy rain will cover their tracks so they can't be followed, and tells his comrade to report to the boss. He desperately pleads with Maria to come with them. Back at the estate, Elisa gets the news from her subordinate. The mission was a success. The man apologizes for putting everyone's lives at risk, but he says it's no problem, because she has already done the same for them. She rages internally, desperately trying to figure out where her plan went off the rails. She thought she played it smart and asked for help, but it seems that memory of the bad ending hasn't changed at all. Refusing to give up, she racks her brain for any other possible solution. Her attendant, Furs, approaches and asks why she looks so gloomy, wondering if it's about the rumors from the palace. She says she couldn't give a rat's ass about whatever they're discussing, but then a new thought seems to strike and her entire focus shifts. If I may. Furs tells her the rumors are nothing but baseless conspiracy. He looks her dead in the eye, saying he believes in her gut. Elisa immediately asks for his help, and he agrees without a second thought. He suggests they discuss the matter inside a more private room. Once inside, Furs prepares to explain the situation to her. He begins with a map, explaining that the nation of Wari is the most powerful. However, they've grown paranoid that their neighbors, Showa and Heis, might move against them. From this, Furs concludes there are two possibilities. The first is that killing Princess Maria would destroy the alliance between the nations. The second is that the prince is being manipulated by a type of mind control magic thought to be lost long ago. Elisa asks if he's making some kind of joke. Furs just smiles, casually mentioning that he's an expert in that same magic and could easily be the one controlling the prince himself. Elisa flies into a rage and attacks him, but Furs doesn't even move. He simply tells her this is no joke, and what's coming next is no laughing matter either. Before she can react, the door bursts open and they're ambushed by a group of masked men. These are not friendly faces. She realizes what's happening and calls him a scumbag. He just smiles back, telling her to call him whatever she wants. Because once she is gone, he can finally seize absolute control. That's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the story, and if you made it to the end, drop a W in the comments and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as it really helps the channel grow. Until then, keep on cooking.